Hello, I'm Camille Jamerson, CEO of the Camille Company. Well, now that the pandemic is over, ministries are finding it very difficult to entice their members back into the sanctuary. It is very critical that ministries are creative, intuitive, and very, very intentional if you're going to build your ministry back to the levels that it was before COVID-19. It is very, very difficult because people have really good reasons for not wanting to return. But together, we're going to come up with some exciting ideas that you and your ministry can do to not only woo former members back into the sanctuary, but to engage the members that you already have. One idea that you can use to bring members back into the sanctuary is to have a thematic Sunday. That means give your Sunday a theme. For example, Springfield Baptist Church in Conyers, Georgia, used their church's anniversary to have what was called a generations theme. You're probably wondering what that is. It's simple. What they did was had each generation of their church wear a specific color. So the silent generation wore a specific color, the boomers, the Gen Xers, the millennials, the Gen Zers, everyone had their own color. Whereas everyone was excited to rep their own generation wearing their colors, the leadership got an unexpected value add from that particular Sunday. They got to see at a glance what their generational makeup was for their ministry. So they thought they had a church filled with millennials, but come to find out, some of the people that they thought were millennials were actually Gen Xers. And so it helped them to be able to steer their programming to meet the needs of their growing church. So thematic Sundays are something that will get your congregation excited. It will get people hyped and ready to participate. And you also may learn something about your congregation that you didn't know. Another example of how you can entice people back into full-time in-person ministry is community projects. I know that probably sounds counterintuitive, like how is something outside of the church going to encourage people to come inside of the church? Well, actually, because the community needs to see the church and the ministry outside of the four walls of the church. So if the community sees you and the volunteers from your church doing perhaps like a food pantry or giving away clothes or participating in other community events as a church, it may entice them to come by and see what your church is all about. Additionally, the members that are participating also build this amazing camaraderie for coming together and doing something together for the community as a church family. So that gets your members engaged. It gets them to build friends and family that they wouldn't normally have. And it's a value add for the community. You can't beat it with a stick, and it's an amazing way to fulfill the mandate of the church. I'm sure you've heard that phrase, fear of missing out, or FOMO. Well, you can actually leverage that to use as a tool to entice people back into ministry. How? By creating things that people can only participate if they're there. For example, one church used a one-night revival from a renowned speaker, and they didn't post it on social media. It's like, hey, you can't stream this. If you want to be a part of this, you kind of got to come to the sanctuary. And it created this fear of missing out. So they wanted to hear that speaker. They had to come to ministry. So another example would be like a breakfast with the pastor or a special potluck dinner. You can't really do that online, right? So you use things like that to invite people to come to the church building, and you make it so you only can participate, you only can be involved if you're there. Keep in mind that if you have these in-person events, then you can also have a special award or prize for coming. So you can give away promo items such as t-shirts or hats. And when people see those t-shirts and hats and want to know, well, why didn't I get that? It's because they weren't there. So you create an environment where people are kind of rewarded for coming and being a part of it in person. And you build this fear of missing out from those who weren't able to attend. Well, with small groups, I think the value add in doing small groups is that the people are having actual Bible study or fellowship in their actual home. So that means they can invite people who wouldn't otherwise come to church, or who may not feel comfortable coming to church. They're just being invited to their home. So they become a part of the small group and what's being taught there without necessarily having to be in ministry. I know you know this was coming, and it's true. Children and youth programs are critical for your ministry, especially if you want to entice parents and families back into the sanctuary. Children's ministries are absolutely one of the most critical tools of a ministry program. Why? Because if the children are taken care of well, parents will be there. Ask me how I know? It happened to me. One of the churches that I ended up joining was primarily because my children heard about their children's program through their cousin, and I'm like, okay, well, fine, I will take you. They raved about it, absolutely raved about it, fell in love with the children's ministry. And so I'm like, okay, well, fine, we can start going here. I ended up falling in love with the ministry. We became members and were there for over a decade. So children's ministry can serve as a tool to draw the children. And if you get the children happy and get them talking about the ministry, you can win the parents over easily. With the change in work schedule, sometimes the problem is the day of the week that services usually fall on, which is Sunday. Some people just can't swing a Sunday morning. They could be in the medical field or work in retail, and they don't have Sunday morning available to attend. But what if you had a midweek service that promises to get people in and out in 60 minutes flat? I bet you they could probably attend that. One church that I worked with did what's called an hour of power, and it was done on Thursdays, called BET, Blessed and Empowered Thursdays. And every Thursday, the pastor would have a different guest, and they would do kind of a Bible study. It's 60 minutes in and out. And it was one of the most successful programs that they were able to do. Why? Because it was very time sensitive. It was in the middle of the week. And so that means that people who normally may not be able to come to that ministry because they were tied up at their own church could also stop by and visit and see what they were doing in theirs. So consider that. Consider the time and consider the date as opportunities and tools to entice members back into in-person worship. Games and quizzes can be an amazing opportunity to get members engaged and back into the fold. You can do social media games where you have quizzes and polls and have people DM the answer. And you can tie some of your games to do kind of what's called maybe like a treasure hunt. You know, you can hide them all over the church where people can only find out what the end game is if they come into the church. Another thing that you can do is have kind of what's called a picture challenge, if you would, where people have to take specific pictures and turn them in on social media in order to be eligible for, let's say, a drawing for a prize. And some of those pictures have to be taken on the church grounds. So let's say one of the pictures could be you have to take a picture by the sign of the church. You have to take a picture near the sanctuary. You have to take a picture with one of the leaders, do a selfie with one of the leaders of the church, or take a picture in the nursery. So you can have a picture challenge. And the purpose of it is, okay, yeah, is to take fun pictures, get them on social media, get people talking about your church, but they have to come into the church to participate. And sometimes all people need is a nudge to feel welcomed and to feel engaged and back into the fold of ministry. So try it. I hope some of these ideas got your creative juices flowing. Now, there are plenty more ideas where that came from. And if you look into the description, there's a link to a full blog post that gives you tons of ideas with examples about how you and your ministry, regardless of your budget, can leverage some of these ideas to get people back into the sanctuary. There are all types of tools that you can use to help you communicate with your church at a much higher level. And Poster My Wall is one of those tools. It's an all-in-one church outreach marketing tool where you can use to create your designs, to schedule your social media posts, to create your emails, calendar, and so much more. Now, there's a promo code that you can use that's good until April 1st. So make sure you check that promo code out and check out Poster My Wall today. Again, my name is Camille Jamerson, and it has been such a pleasure chatting with you today, giving you ideas for your ministry. I, for one, am a church girl, and I will do everything in my power to help you in your ministry, get people back into the sanctuary where we can minister to their needs. I am so excited to be here with you today. I want to give a special thank you to Poster My Wall for entrusting me with this information and with their brand. Check them out today. It's been a pleasure. Take care.